Everyone, welcome back at Charlotte from at Charlotte's House, and this is episode 2 of my Flip House series, and today we're going to start on demo. If you watched last week, then you recall that there is a lot about this house that is simply just undoing what the previous owners did. There's a lot of cosmetic updates that I'm hoping to make, so that's where I'm starting. I'm going to start on the first floor so that I don't get too overwhelmed. The things that I am most excited to get rid of are the window treatments and all of the faux woodwork down here. So I'm going to go get started. I'm hopeful that it will be as simple as just pulling things off the wall, but who knows?
I've probably mentioned it before, but one of the reasons that I chose this house in particular for the flip house was that so much of the work appeared to be cosmetic.
I want you to come up and see what they've done. Oh, look at that. That's so brutal. So they've just torn the window frame to pieces. Look over here. And then, I don't know, this is some hack also. So I knew going in that I was gonna have to probably trim out all the windows, but there you have it.
So much of my strategy behind the flip is just undoing a lot of these cosmetic things. The house itself is in great shape. Most of what this house needs is just a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of cleaning up. I mean, it's a lot of cleaning up and a lot of elbow grease, but you get my point. I've been saving all the little things that I've found in this house, and I'm getting quite a collection. I'm taking down decorative trim. I'm taking down all the little things in this first floor that are pretty easy. Taking down the window treatments took 2 minutes, and it already makes the house feel light and bright and cheerful and so much different and so much more updated. And that is just window treatments. There are other things that will be harder to undo. You can see there is wallpaper everywhere. The dining room, you can see on either side of me, there is a barrel or a keg situation. They are not working, but that is going to come down next. A lot of the demo involved kind of trying to figure out how these things were put up. You may be able to tell from the way they left the window frames that these things were not put in particularly well. A lot of the trim came off even without using a crowbar. These barrels are put in well. It is easy to figure out how to undo it, but they are solid. Essentially, the people created a round cleat that is sitting on the wall, and then the barrel is hammered into the cleat on the top. So I'm trying to get purchase on that nail that's going into the top of the barrel, and that means I have to pull apart a couple of shingles. They are using nails that are bigger than anything I've seen, but I finally was able to lift it off. Such a relief. And then here's what I'm dealing with.
Here's an up close look at what they've done. I mean, these must have been up for ages. Look at the size of these. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull down the shingles, and then hopefully I can get behind this round piece of plywood. Obviously that wall behind it is gonna be a disaster, but I think I'm gonna try to take it apart now.
The second one came off a lot easier. Don't worry, I'm saving everything that I find. I have them sort of gathered on a radiator in the other room. I do think that these barrels could probably sell on Facebook Marketplace, certainly the taps that came in them. So at some point I will take pictures and I will list them and try to make a little bit of money. In order to get to those cleats, I had to remove the trim that they had put up. There are so many shingles. Most of them came off pretty easily, and I was able to just use a mini crowbar and my hammer to remove them. I knew that I was going to be dealing with some pretty ugly walls back here. I was able to slowly work my way around the cleat, and then finally I could pull it off of the wall. They had used a little piece of some sort of material just to build the wall up to flush where they had filled in what I think is a window back there. I removed that little piece of whatever lumber it was, and now I'm getting my first glance at what was behind the barrel situation.
The house is 1920s or so you can see the leftover lath, plaster and lath, and it looks like they've patched it with some drywall. So we're gonna have to address that. I don't think I'm gonna make any decisions until I tackle the wallpaper. Looks like there's a couple layers of wallpaper. On to the next one.
This faux wood situation is wrapped around every doorway. All of the beams are the same thing. Thankfully, most of them are coming out pretty easily. Certainly the trim pieces, they use pretty flimsy little nails, and in some cases I can just pull them off with my hand. There was a railing on either side of the dining room, I guess just to accentuate that cased opening. So I was able to easily remove that as well. And again, I keep saying this, but just removing this dark, beat up, dated wood makes the place feel so much more updated and brighter and cleaner already. The only places where this faux beam situation was a little bit of an issue on this soffit, I'm not sure what's going on behind it, but because the house was originally plaster and lath, there were a couple of places where it did pull the plaster away from the lath a little bit. So I'm going to have to go back in and I'm going to have to patch up there. Most places I think I can just use a regular old joint compound, but there were a few places where I'll have to figure out how to re-adhere the plaster just to make it look nice. I'm not even using tools and I'm able to pull that railing away from the wall. Demo was really fun, you guys. I was listening to an audiobook. I am not mad about this. I am not getting into the kitchen at this point. I am simply worried about the dining room and the living room and that foyer. I will figure out the kitchen at a later date, but for now, I am just pulling out any frames, anything that is getting in my way. Lots of little treasures. I found this guy. Add him to my museum. The question that I have as I'm pulling apart some of this trim is whether or not I want to bring trim back into these cased openings. I will obviously have to add trim to the doors, but I don't know that cased openings necessarily need to have trim. If you have an opinion on this, go ahead and leave me a comment. I might just leave these as is just to keep it clean and fresh. This is a quick glimpse at how many nails were going into this wall. It took me a hot second to remove them all, but I knew I needed to remove the nails and the screws just to make it easier to remove the planks behind it. So this is the end of day one. I am trying to be better about tidying up and cleaning my workspace.
It is day 2 of demo at the flip house, and my goal today is to finish taking down all of the fake paneling, all of the fake beams. I'm gonna slowly turn you around so that you don't get car sick and remind you how much I did day 1. The dumpster is coming soon, and then I'll move this into the dumpster, but we are making good progress. Let's keep going.
The biggest thing that I noticed when I was taking down the beams on day 1 is that particularly the beams that are up into the ceiling, it was tricky to get purchase on the nails without going through the drywall. There is a tool that you can get that will help with this. What worked for me at the end of this day was I just found a piece of scrap wood that I could put underneath my crowbar. It just helps to disperse the force. So that's what I was sort of able to do to keep working on the beams. You can see how the beams were assembled. That's pretty typical. You have a few pieces of wood that are nailed up through the ceiling into the floor joists above, and then they basically build the beams around them. These beams are pretty well made. They actually mitered the corners and they look legit. I don't know whether or not they were man distressed or if they were distressed sort of in the factory. They need to go regardless. So the beams came loose pretty easily. And then again, I had to work slowly but surely to get the boards that were against the ceiling loose without going up into the drywall. But once I figured out my system, there's only a few places where I think I'm going to have to patch that drywall with something more than joint compound. So that is an easy solution. There's a lot of lights that need to come down. One of them was just a plug-in that was on this vertical beam, and I learned why that beam was there. Those are the pipes that go from the basement up to the radiator above. That's fine. I will reframe those pipes in with lumber that is smooth and painted the same color as the wall, and hopefully that will just disappear. I also don't need a column that is quite as big as the one they put in. I think I can get away with something that is just 2 or 3 inches deep. But again, I will speak with my plumber and make sure that I give enough room around those pipes. Maybe they need to be insulated. This is something that I can definitely do, but I want to do it right. I'm going to turn off the electricity so that I can pull out these outlets, and then I can take this wall paneling off, and I think I'll call it a day. I went ahead and removed the outlet covers and pulled these outlets loose from the wall. These wall planks are cut around the outlets, so that is good news. I don't have to get too cute to remove them. And I can see after removing one that they are attached to some, it looks like maybe 1x3s that are just hammered into the wall studs behind it. It felt so good to begin pulling away these planks. I will save them. They are not awful, and I will use them somewhere else, or maybe I will put these on Facebook Marketplace, something like that. I wasn't sure how easily these boards would come loose, and thankfully they're coming out really easily. So I think this wall, once I remove the wallpaper, will be a lot easier to patch than I was anticipating. This looks to be a window that was filled in, and as much as I would love to bring this window back in, right now, the way the room is, there's not any other wall to put a large piece of furniture. And so I think not only is it an expense to replace the window, once the window is there, you are looking about 10 feet into the neighbor's house. So you're real close. And I don't think the room needs it. I think it'll be easier to set up furniture without it, and it's just one less thing for me to worry about. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but cosmetic things are totally within my wheelhouse. Anything cosmetic is something I can do myself. A little bit of elbow grease, and all of a sudden, this house has a totally different feel, and that is free.
I think this is where I'm gonna stop. I have a pile of lumber in the dining room. I am waiting for a dumpster to arrive so then I can move this out into the dumpster. I have uncovered one wall. There is a lot of patching in my future, and next week I think I'm gonna try to figure out this wallpaper. The wallpaper is overwhelming, but just like everything else in this house, I am gonna tackle it one small increment at a time. I'm not gonna think ahead too far. Stay tuned. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel so that you will get notified when I share the next installation, which, like I said, I think it'll be wallpaper. And thanks so much for watching.